The air in the Sonoran Grand Resort was crisp with citrus and money. Marble floors gleamed under my heels as I stepped into the lobby, dragging behind me a Louis Vuitton suitcase filled with resort wear and carefully selected gifts, each one picked with a different family member in mind. Nate's favorite comic books, Caroline's perfume, a new cashmere wrap for Denise. I had driven straight from my office in downtown Scottsdale, excited, albeit exhausted, thinking this vacation would be the reset we all needed, until I heard my name. Vanessa would just complicate everything. Ryan's voice floated through the lobby, light with laughter. I froze mid-step, hidden behind a marble pillar. My husband's voice had that charming, dismissive tone he used when trying to smooth over cruelty with charisma. Mom's right. It's just easier this way. I mean, Caroline chimed in, she's always trying so hard to belong. It's exhausting. Her laugh, sharp and hollow, sliced through me. New money always does, Denise replied smoothly. But at least she's generous. That part's useful. Something inside me cracked. My hand tightened around the handle of my suitcase as I peered across the reflecting pool toward the group lounging near the lobby fountain. They hadn't seen me yet. Ryan stood with his hands shoved in his pockets, watching his mother and sister like a child still begging for approval. Not once did he defend me, not one word. Denise sipped something from a tall glass and smiled, delighted. Caroline threw her head back in laughter, eyes sparkling with mockery. My name, my presence was a joke to them. Denise's voice pierced the air again. Did you tell her you had a work emergency? Ryan scratched the back of his neck, his tell. Yeah, she bought it. Said she'd wire the hotel payment this morning. She did, and she was standing just 20 feet away. My body moved before my brain could catch up. My hand reached for my phone out of instinct, pulling up the banking app. Every reservation, every charge, every dollar of this week-long luxury vacation was mine. I paid for the rooms. I paid for the spa treatments. I paid for the yacht rental for Friday's surprise outing. And they'd excluded me from it all. Excuse me, ma'am. A voice behind me startled me. A young concierge stood there, polite and polished. Can I help you with anything? I straightened my posture, smoothed down my dress, and forced a smile. Yes, I said evenly. I'd like to speak to the manager. I have some changes to make to my reservation. The manager arrived quickly. Of course, Mrs. Langford. What can I do for you? I glanced across the lobby again. They still hadn't noticed me. I'd like to upgrade my reservation to the presidential suite. Certainly. And I'd like to cancel the other rooms under my account. All 5 of them. The manager blinked. All 5? Yes. I took a breath. And please make sure my name is the only one authorized for charges. No one else. He hesitated, then nodded. Of course. Somewhere behind me, Denise's voice rose, confused, then agitated. She must have been alerted by the front desk about the cancellations. I didn't turn around. I didn't need to. Will you be checking in now, Mrs. Langford? No, I took the new key card. I'll return later tonight. First, I have some shopping to do. My heels clicked across the marble floor as I passed them. Not a single glance in my direction. Not from the man I married. Not from the family I had spent 3 years trying to earn. Their laughter faded behind me, and for the first time in a long time I could breathe. I didn't cry in the elevator. I didn't scream or break down in the parking lot. I didn't even curse when I sat behind the wheel of my Lexus, the sun beating down across the Sonoran Mountains behind me. I just sat there, breathing. In, out. The key card to the presidential suite burned cold in my palm. I'd packed everything with care, folded each outfit with intention, chosen every gift like a child begging for approval. And for what? To be erased from the narrative of my own generosity, my own marriage? I laughed short, sharp, unfamiliar. Then I reached into the glove box and pulled out the envelope I kept for emergencies, a file with account access, legal authorizations, and the name of the best forensic accountant I knew. I dialed without thinking. Langford and Company. Came the clipped greeting on the other end. Oliver speaking. Hey. My voice cracked more than I wanted it to. It happened again. There was a pause. Then, simply, where are you? Parking lot of the Sonoran Grand. Can I come over? Always. It took less than 20 minutes to get to his house. The desert blurred past my window in streaks of ochre and heat, but all I could see were their faces, laughing, scheming, cutting me out like I was some inconvenient accessory to their lavish, curated lives. When I pulled into Oliver's driveway, he was already on the porch. He didn't ask questions, just handed me a glass of whiskey with 3 perfect cubes and led me to the back deck like we'd done this 100 times before. I sat down slowly, the drink heavy in my hand. They planned it for weeks, I whispered. All of them. Ryan, his mother, Caroline, even Nate's part was a lie. They made up an entire narrative to keep me away, and I wired them the money to do it. Oliver leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. You're saying your husband lied? Again. I nodded. Told me he had a last-minute investor meeting, that the family trip was postponed, that I should send payment anyway so the rooms wouldn't be lost. And you did. Of course I did. I downed the whiskey in one gulp, because that's what I do. I pay for everything. The vacations, the repairs, Nate's tuition, Caroline's therapy retreats, their gas, their groceries. I've been doing it for years, trying to buy my way into a family that never wanted me there in the first place. Oliver said nothing for a moment. Then, you have the receipts? All of them. I pulled out my phone and started showing him. Wire transfers, hotel confirmations, Caroline's Venmo request for her husband's golf set. Look at the dates. Look at the messages. He whistled low. They've drained you like a faucet. And now I'm dry, I said. Except I'm not. Not anymore. I canceled their rooms. Flagged my name as the only payer. Left Ryan standing in the lobby looking for a room he can't afford. Oliver smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. What's your next move? I don't know, I admitted. But I'm done being the one holding everything together while they mock me behind my back. I'm done trying to earn their love with dollars and desperation. Oliver raised his glass. Then here's to being done. I clinked mine against his, the ice rattling like bones. My phone buzzed Ryan's name. I let it go to voicemail. Then it buzzed again. And again. Denise. Caroline. All of them. Until one message made my hand tremble. It was from Nate. Aunt Ness, where are you? I waited all morning. I brought your comic. You promised you'd read it with me. My heart squeezed. I typed back with shaking fingers. I'll see you soon, buddy. I promise. Then I blocked everyone else and sat in silence as the desert sun fell behind the mountains, finally realizing I wasn't abandoned. I was free. The sun had dipped low behind the cactus-lined hills by the time Oliver refilled our glasses. The amber liquid caught the last light like gold in cut crystal. I hadn't moved from the deck chair. My phone sat face down on the table. I didn't want to see another name flash across that screen. Another plea, another guilt trip, another lie. For the first time in years, I let the silence settle, and it didn't feel lonely. They planned the trip right under my nose, I said, my voice steadier now but low. Caroline told me she wasn't sure if Nate would be able to come because of a supposed school project. Ryan lied about a work trip. Denise said she might be going in for surgery, and the whole time they were booking spa appointments and renting boats with my money. Oliver didn't flinch, just sipped slowly, and you kept writing the checks. I wanted them to like me, I admitted, to finally belong. I thought if I gave enough, they'd let me in. Not as the outsider with no pedigree, not as the girl from foster homes, but as someone they could accept. You know what Denise said to me when Ryan proposed? She said I was lucky they were willing to overlook my background. And I believed that. I believed that being with them made me legitimate. Oliver's eyes sharpened. That woman never deserved your kindness. She said money can't buy class. But I was useful enough when the roof caved in during monsoon season, and I covered $16,000 in repairs. Or when Nate needed to switch to private school, and I paid the $11,000 enrollment fee. Or when Caroline's husband lost his job, and I bought him that ridiculous golf set to lift his mood. You're the reason any of them are still afloat. I let out a humorless laugh. Ryan hasn't held a job longer than 6 months since we got married. Every time he quits, it's because he's reassessing his purpose. Meanwhile, I run a company with 47 employees, carry a board of investors, and keep my books so tight my accountant thanks me in quarterly emails. Oliver nodded. So are you ready? For what? To stop playing the part. Stop trying to earn love with spreadsheets and wire transfers. Stop being the polite daughter-in-law who smiles while they bleed you dry. I looked at him. You think I haven't tried? Every time I've confronted Ryan, he flips it. He makes me feel guilty. Tells me I'm making things worse. That his family is fragile and needs help. That I'm being cold. You're not cold, Oliver said. You're surviving. There's a difference. My phone buzzed again. Another voicemail. I didn't need to listen to know the script. Caroline crying. Denise furious. Ryan begging. But then, another ding. A text. From Nate. Are you mad at me? I didn't know they were lying. Grandma said not to tell you. I closed my eyes. I can't hurt him, I whispered. He's the only one who ever made me feel welcome. He asked me once if I'd teach him embroidery. Said it looked like magic how I made pictures with string. Then hold on to that, Oliver said gently. Hold on to what's real. Not the chaos. Not the betrayal. The boy who left you a comic book because he thought you'd read it together. I swallowed hard, staring at the last rays of gold slipping beneath the skyline. I need to know how deep it goes. The money, the lies, the manipulation. I need numbers, dates, evidence. Oliver stood. Then I'll get you what you need. Start with the company accounts, I added, my voice gaining steel. If Ryan or Denise touched a single line of credit, I want to know. I want to know everything. He nodded. You'll have it by morning. I drained the rest of my drink. This ends now. Not with tears. Not with begging. With facts. With truth. With consequences. For the first time in years, I felt something settle inside me. Resolve. Cold, quiet, and clear. The next morning, I woke to the shrill sound of my phone buzzing on the nightstand. I didn't check it right away. I lay there in Oliver's guest room, staring at the ceiling fan spin lazily above me, feeling the weight of choices yet to come. But the buzzing didn't stop. It came in waves, calls, texts, voicemails. I finally picked it up. Ryan. Denise. Caroline. Caroline again. Then Ryan. The notifications stacked like an avalanche. Desperation was a language I now recognized fluently. I didn't open any of them until one name flashed across the screen that made my chest tighten. Nate. The preview of the message read, I'm sorry, Aunt Ness. I didn't know they lied. Please don't be mad at me. I sat up, heart cracking a little at the edges. My thumb hovered before opening it. Inside was a photo of the comic book I'd given him on his birthday. On the first page, in a child's handwriting, he'd written, Read this with Aunt Ness at the hotel. I blinked back something that felt too close to grief. Then the phone rang again. I let it go to voicemail. This time, Ryan left a message. Vanessa, babe, please. Just call me. Mom's losing it. The hotel's threatening to call security because of the cancellations. Caroline's crying. And Nate keeps asking where you are. We can fix this. You're blowing it out of proportion. Oliver walked past the room with 2 mugs of coffee and paused in the doorway. Want it strong or stronger? I managed a weak smile. Stronger. We sat outside again, the Arizona heat already rising, baking the desert stones and burning away the chill of the previous night. I took a sip and opened the next message from Caroline. How dare you embarrass us like this after everything we've done for you? I choked on my coffee. Everything they've done for me? I muttered, flipping through more messages. I paid for her husband's therapy, her tuition, her rent. What did she ever do for me? Mock my shoes at Christmas? Tell the country club I was just the tech wife? Oliver raised an eyebrow. Tell me again why you haven't changed your number. I exhaled, because I want to know what they'll say when the money's gone, who they become when I stop funding the narrative. Another buzz, this time Denise. Vanessa, this isn't how family behaves. Your actions are deeply hurtful. We need to talk. Over lunch. LeBlanc tomorrow. LeBlanc. Of course. The same restaurant where she'd once introduced me to her circle as Ryan's ambitious little pet project. I remembered how she'd leaned in at dessert, whispering about a friend's son's startup, one she insisted I should fund as a family favor. Oliver leaned closer. Want me to respond? I shook my head. No, but I want you to start pulling financial records from the company. I want to know if they've been dipping into anything tied to my business. He nodded, already on it. Then he paused, staring at my phone screen. That one's new. A message from Nate, a voice recording this time. I hesitated, then pressed play. Aunt Ness. Grandma said I shouldn't talk to you. She said you don't want to be in our family anymore. But I don't believe her. You gave me the comic, and you said we'd read it together. And I saved your seat at breakfast, just in case. My throat burned. I didn't cry. Not yet. I stared into the desert heat until the mountains blurred. They're using him, I said hoarsely, to manipulate me. Oliver didn't respond with sympathy. He didn't offer soft words. He said, then don't let them win. I looked down at the phone again, Nate's recording still lingering in my ear. No, I whispered. Not this time. By midday, Oliver's team had begun pulling threads, and what unraveled wasn't just messy. It was malicious. He called me into his office upstairs, where 2 monitors glowed with spreadsheets and transfer logs. You might want to sit down, he said, already knowing I wouldn't. I stood behind his chair, arms folded, spine straight. I had spent years bending, smiling through comments, overlooking slights, wiring money with a hopeful heart. That version of me was gone. He clicked open the first document. This is your mother-in-law's emergency card, the one you gave her last year when she said she couldn't afford her blood pressure meds. I nodded. The red card. Oliver zoomed in. In the past 12 months, she's used it at Riverbend Casino 43 times. My heart thudded. How much? 40,000. Give or take. My jaw clenched, but I said nothing. He opened another tab. And this one's worse. Last month, she transferred $20,000 from one of your personal accounts to Caroline's checking. She told me it was for Nate's school laptop, I muttered. She spent it at a luxury spa retreat in Sedona. Caroline tagged herself in the eucalyptus sauna. I didn't respond. I couldn't. There's more, Oliver said carefully, like peeling back the next layer of rot. Caroline, her husband's recent investment opportunity. He's funneled over 10,000 of your money into a cryptocurrency scam. My stomach churned. He told me he needed a short bridge loan. Your name's on the business license they used to register it. I gripped the back of the chair so tightly my fingers went numb. Then came the final blow. Oliver pulled up a digital newsletter from Denise's country club. There, beneath a photo of her in a wide-brimmed hat, was the headline, Mentorship and Money, Marilyn Langford on Building a Tech Empire with Her Daughter-in-Law. The article painted Denise as a silent partner in my company, claimed she'd invested the startup capital, that I was the vision, but she was the backbone. I let out a sharp, bitter laugh. Oliver turned. You didn't know? I didn't even know she could operate a Google document. He gave me space. Let me pace. Let me think. How many people saw this? I finally asked. Probably all of Scottsdale's elite by now. Her signature was on the back page. She's hosting a fundraiser next week and planning to promote herself as the founder's guiding hand. And the board? No one said anything. Yet, I stopped pacing. Send me the article. And everything else. Compile the financial records. Print the wire logs. I want a hard copy of every lie they've told. Vanessa, Oliver said carefully, once you go down this road, there's no going back. I know. He stood and handed me the flash drive. Then it's time to choose. Are you staying in their story or writing your own? I took it, and for the first time in my life, I chose mine. Ryan showed up at my front door just after sunset, hair tousled, shirt wrinkled, a bouquet of roses clenched in one hand like a peace offering that belonged in someone else's story. I didn't open the door all the way, just far enough to let him see I wasn't crying. Vanessa, he breathed, I know this looks bad, but we can talk. You know how Mom gets, how Caroline gets. You're upset. I get it, but we can fix this. I stared at him. Fix what exactly? The lying? The theft? Or the part where you stood there while they planned a vacation with my money and excluded me from it? He ran a hand through his hair. The nervous tick I used to think was endearing. Now it looked like a performance. Look, I didn't mean for it to go this far. It was supposed to be a surprise for your birthday. They panicked when the rooms got canceled. They panicked, I repeated flatly. I mean, technically you did cancel everyone's rooms, because I paid for everyone's rooms. He swallowed. Still, we didn't think. No, I cut in. You didn't, and you haven't in a long time. He shifted. Can I come in? No, his brows lifted. You're serious? I'm dead serious. Behind him, a car door slammed. Caroline marched up the steps, mascara smudged, phone clenched in one fist like a weapon. You froze our accounts, she snapped. Yes. Nate's tuition is due next week. Which is interesting, I said, stepping out onto the porch and closing the door behind me, because I was just reviewing the transfers from the education fund. Seems your mother redirected several of them into her personal account. Caroline's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Ryan blinked. That can't be right. Check the logs, I said, holding up a printed spreadsheet. It's all here. Dates, amounts, notes, medical emergency, turned out to be slot machines and a signature facial. She said it was temporary, Caroline whispered. She said it would all balance out. I laughed, a dry, exhausted laugh. Balance out? On whose books? Mine? I was the ATM, the silent donor, and the joke. You don't understand, Ryan said, voice tight. Mom's always been resourceful. No, she's always been manipulative, and you've always let her be. He stepped toward me. Can we just talk? You and me? Forget the rest. You mean forget that your mother claimed she was the founder of my company? That she's telling people I'm emotionally unstable? He paled. She wouldn't, she did. And she's preparing to send my foster care records to my board. I've already seen the draft, annotated in her handwriting. Caroline swayed slightly. She said it was a precaution, in case you made things public. Well, I said coldly, she guessed right. Ryan reached for my hand. I stepped back. Don't, I warned. He looked like he wanted to argue, but something in my eyes must have stopped him. Vanessa, we're family. Families survive things. No, families protect each other. You used me. All of you. He fell silent. I turned to Caroline. I'll make sure Nate's tuition gets paid. Directly to the school. He shouldn't suffer for this. But the rest of you, Your spa days, your investment scams, your designer handbags bought with startup funds. And now. I never meant to hurt you, she said, voice barely above a whisper. That's the problem, I replied. You didn't care enough to even consider whether you were. Caroline looked down. Ryan stood there, helpless, without his mother to script his next move. There are consequences coming, I said softly. You might want to start reading the fine print on everything you signed. Then I walked back inside and locked the door behind me. And for the first time, I didn't feel like the outsider being shut out. I felt like the one finally shutting them out. Oh, the Grand Sonoran's lobby was as pristine as ever. Polished marble, cascading fountain, orchids clipped to perfection. But today, it wasn't serenity that filled the air. It was tension. I stood behind the security desk with the manager, watching the live feed from the cameras. There they were, Ryan, Caroline, Denise, two of Ryan's cousins, all standing near the concierge in a grotesque parody of celebration. Party hats, balloons, a cake box, even a bouquet of white lilies like it was a wedding and funeral all in one. Denise was crying, performatively of course. Caroline looked like she'd stepped out of a reality show mid-breakdown. They say they're here for your birthday, the manager said quietly. They're telling guests in the lobby that you're emotionally unstable and that they're here to stage an intervention. Of course they were. The final act. The concerned family rescuing the fragile orphan who lost her grip. A neatly rehearsed redemption arc. Except I hadn't agreed to the script. Should we call the police? He asked. I shook my head slowly. No. Let them have their moment. The elevator dinged behind me. Oliver stepped out, carrying a slim manila envelope. They're doubling down, he said grimly, handing me the documents. This is what Denise's lawyer leaked to the press this morning. Inside, photocopies of old foster records, psychological evaluations from when I was 12, reports from social workers, annotated again in Denise's handwriting. Too emotionally reactive, unfit for high-stress leadership, reluctant to form attachments. There were sticky notes on some of the pages. One read, potential liability if exposed to investors. I looked at Oliver. They're trying to erase me by rewriting my story. He met my eyes. Then write it yourself. And I did. I walked into that lobby, heels clicking, shoulders square, silence falling as every pair of eyes turned to me. Ryan stepped forward first, smiling like we were lovers reunited in a Hallmark special. Vanessa, he began. Sweetheart, we're here for you. Like you were there when you lied about a work trip so you could spend my money in Cabo. He faltered. Caroline clutched her phone closer to her chest. I heard everything, Ryan. You said I'd make it complicated. You said I didn't belong. You all did. Denise took a step forward, voice trembling like a wounded matriarch. Vanessa, we didn't mean to forge my signature on a second mortgage for a house I paid for. Didn't mean to funnel tuition money into your casino account. Didn't mean to claim you built my company. The crowd had gathered now. Phones raised, whispers spreading. You're humiliating yourself, Caroline hissed. No, I'm telling the truth, I said calmly. You want to talk about instability? Let's talk about exploitation. About how you drained my accounts. About how you mocked my background while living off everything I worked for. Ryan lunged forward, grabbing my arm. You're having an episode. You need help, I wrenched away. Touch me again, and I'll add assault to the charges. Oliver moved in, but I held up a hand. I didn't need anyone to speak for me anymore. I reached into my bag and pulled out the USB drive, held it up. 3 years of receipts, emails, bank statements, messages, recordings. Every single time you asked me to fix your lives with my money while treating me like an outsider. Ryan's face drained of color. This isn't the place. This is the perfect place, I said, loud enough for the entire lobby to hear. Because you wanted a scene, and now you have one. That's when Nate's voice cut through it all. Is it true? He called out. Everyone turned. He stood in the entrance, still in his baseball uniform, dust on his cleats, cap in his hands. Is that why Grandma's in jail? Because she stole from Aunt Ness. The silence was immediate, heavy. I stepped forward, kneeling slightly to meet his eyes. Yes, sweetheart, it's true. And I'm so sorry you had to hear it like this. But we're family, he said, looking between us all. My voice broke, just enough to feel human. Family means protecting each other, not using each other. And sometimes, Nate, it means walking away from people who keep hurting you. Denise let out a wail. Ryan's mouth moved, but no words came. Caroline took off her party hat, and I turned to face the phones, the audience, the people craving drama. You wanted a story? I said, here's mine. And then I walked out, past the fountain, past the concierge desk, past the woman I used to be. Free. The next morning, my divorce papers were signed. I stared at them as the ink dried, the legal language, stark and final, like the closing scene of a play I should have left years ago. Ryan didn't show. He sent a text instead. 3 words. You'll regret this. I didn't respond. I was done explaining to people who never listened in the first place. A few hours later, a small package arrived on my doorstep. No note, no return address. Inside, my old foster care files. A manila envelope, stamped private, now returned to sender. On top, a yellow sticky note in Denise's meticulous handwriting. She wants you to know she's sorry. Sorry. The word rattled in my chest like a coin dropped in an empty bowl. Too late. Too late. I didn't open the files. Instead, I went to the living room, pulled out the embroidery, hoop that had once belonged to my mother, the last real family I had before the Langfords. The pattern was unfinished, thread dangling like interrupted thoughts. I stared at it for a long time, then began a new section. Something original. Something mine. Bright, imperfect, stubborn. Like me. That afternoon, I walked into Nate's school gym for his baseball game. The bleachers buzzed with weekend chatter. Coffee cups, foam fingers, siblings screaming. No one seemed to care about viral hotel videos or trending hashtags. Yesterday's scandal had already been replaced by today's gossip. I found a seat in the front row. Ryan wasn't there. Caroline sat several rows behind me, her posture rigid, sunglasses huge and unnecessary indoors. Nate spotted me from the dugout and beamed. He waved like his whole body was doing it. Didn't think you'd come, he said as he jogged past. Wouldn't miss it for anything, buddy. He grinned, tipping his cap. The game was glorious chaos. Kids tripping over bases, parents arguing about strikes, the coach nearly hyperventilating. But when Nate stepped up to bat, I held my breath. His stance was solid. We'd practiced that all last summer in my backyard. The pitch came in fast, and he hit it. Clean. Sharp. The ball soared. Everyone screamed. He ran like the world was on fire. I stood and cheered, hands over my heart. And for a moment, everything else, lawyers, betrayals, headlines, fell away. Later, as the field emptied, I spotted something near home plate. A folded paper. On it, for Aunt Ness. Caroline approached slowly. Her makeup was minimal, her voice unsteady. He wrote it the night Mom was arrested. I opened it. Dear Aunt Ness, thank you for teaching me that family isn't about money. Mom says we can't be family anymore. But she also said lying was okay sometimes. So I don't believe her. Can you still teach me to make pictures with thread? Love, Nate. Below the words was a crayon drawing. Me and Nate at the kitchen table, surrounded by colorful threads. Above it, in shaky letters, real family. I looked up. Caroline twisted her wedding ring. Everything's falling apart. Mom's facing jail. Ryan's drinking again. My marriage is, she didn't finish. I don't know how to fix any of it, she said quietly. Maybe some things aren't meant to be fixed, I replied. Maybe they're meant to be rebuilt. From scratch. She met my eyes for the first time in weeks. Would you let him come over again? I mean, if that's okay. I nodded. Actually, I'm starting a community embroidery class. Saturday mornings. All ages welcome. Her expression softened. He'd love that. She hesitated. Maybe I could come too. I handed her the hoop from my bag. She ran her fingers over the unfinished pattern, eyes distant. You know what my mom used to say about embroidery. I said, the front shows the art, but the back shows the truth. All the knots, all the mess. You can't have one without the other. She blinked fast. Maybe it's time I start learning the other side. We stood there for a moment in the fading sun. Two women who had once pretended to be sisters, now, maybe, learning how to be something better. That evening, after the game and the quiet drive home, I found myself sitting in the same spot where this all began. My home office, now stripped of chaos and noise. The desk was clean. The inbox was quiet. And beside me sat my mother's embroidery hoop, thread still dangling like a breath not yet taken. I didn't touch my phone when it rang again. I didn't need to check the caller ID to know who it was. Ryan's lawyer. The man had left 15 voicemails in 3 days, each more frantic than the last. His latest one said the charges were needlessly vindictive and begged me to settle this privately for the sake of appearances. I let it go to voicemail again. Instead, I opened my email from Oliver. The subject line was blunt. Final evidence package. All ready. Police request confirmation to proceed. I hovered over the reply button for a long time. Outside, the sun slipped beneath the horizon, casting long shadows across the room. I traced the edge of the hoop in my lap. My mother had once told me that embroidery taught patience and precision, that the smallest stitch mattered, that messy threads still made beautiful patterns if you had the courage to keep going. I had spent years trying to make the Langfords my pattern, trying to stitch myself into their lives like some forgotten motif on a family quilt that had no place for me. But now, I was choosing different threads. I typed one line into the reply box. Yes, proceed with charges. Then I hit send. A knock came at the front door less than 10 minutes later. It wasn't Ryan. It wasn't Caroline. It was Oliver, holding a grocery bag and a pair of takeout coffees. You shouldn't be alone tonight, he said. I'm not, I replied. Not anymore. We ate quietly in the kitchen, surrounded by the hum of silence I used to find unbearable, but now felt like peace. Midway through dinner, the doorbell rang again. Oliver looked at me, expecting anyone. I shook my head. Through the peephole, I saw a small figure. Nate, backpack slung over one shoulder, clutching a wrapped object in both hands. When I opened the door, he looked up at me, eyes wide. Dad doesn't know I'm here. My stomach tightened. Nate, I'm okay, he cut in. I just wanted to give you this. He held out the package. I opened it slowly. Inside was a stretched piece of cloth, unevenly stitched, messy and completely perfect. A wonky heart in the center, framed with the words, "Thank you for showing me what family really looks like." My throat burned. I crouched to his eye level. You made this? He nodded. At school, during art. I told them it was for someone who made me feel safe. I pulled him into a hug and didn't let go. Can I still come to class Saturday? He mumbled into my shoulder. I smiled into his hair. Every Saturday, front row. When I stood again, Oliver was at the door, arms crossed, a look of cautious admiration on his face. Was that revenge or forgiveness back there? He asked softly after Nate had left. I considered the question as I ran my fingers over the childlike stitching. Maybe both, I said. Maybe they're just different sides of the same pattern. Later that night, I sat alone in the embroidery room. The house was still. The storm had passed. I didn't open the foster care file from Denise. I didn't need to. My past didn't scare me anymore. She had tried to use it to shame me, but she hadn't understood that surviving it was what gave me the strength to end all this. Instead, I reached for fresh thread and began a new pattern, one stitch at a time. The lines weren't straight, the colors didn't match, but it was mine, and it was real.